Hello, Alexis. Going to take a look at your 5 characteristics posting. Just gonna share screens here and go through your images, talk a little bit about what I'm observing, give you some feedback on your work. So we'll go ahead and screen share there, and we'll get started. So to start off, I tend to just do an overview, just sort of look at the posting itself. Basically, as if you were walking into a gallery, sort of taking a look around to see what's there. I recommend doing this when you're critiquing, when we're doing our critique in the class, just to kind of get an idea of whether the person organized it well or not. So taking a look at what you have, you've got your direction labeled pretty well. You're following it down here into intensity, direction 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We stopped putting direction here, and then we have a few extras here that I'm not sure where they belong, that may not be necessary, that don't have a label on them. You then pick up on it again with intensity, and that's good. So we have a few little organizational things. It's easy to correct. You would just go in and edit your posting, and you can remove images quite easily that way, just to clean up the posting. It looks like maybe we have some of your intensity images, perhaps. No, looks like you just have a few extra direction. Temperature looks pretty good. Looks like they shift into color. You've got them identified pretty well. Moving into contrast. And then hardness, which is all about manipulating shadows. Also, as an overview with your compositions, which I'll talk a little bit about as well, looks like you're very actively using the entire space. And what I mean by that is I kind of come into this first one. I'll sort of open that one up. Let me kind of go back and do the blog view of it. Let's see, position 1, position 2, go into this first one here. Position 1, as you can see, let me get my face out of the way. Position 1, you can see here, you've got the entire frame from edge to the edge identified, sort of active. You're coming right into the composition. You're coming right into the picture frame using the entire frame. You don't have any unused or unnecessary space. Now, using the entire picture frame doesn't necessarily always mean you do a close-up. You can use the entire picture frame and still be sort of back and far away, but zooming in or coming into the subject is a very sort of effective way to use the entire picture plane. And your compositions are quite well organized, quite well here. You're using sort of direction here. You're using the angles sort of crossing each other, slight angles kind of crossing each other creates a really effective energy. Your focus is very particular, right on the edge of that painted bottle. So excellent use of design. Although this is not a composition class, it's not a design class, it's about lighting. We do want you to be using your what you have learned in design classes, your two-dimensional design, three-dimensional design, drawing classes, all of those things that address principles of two-dimensional design, organizing the page. We want you to hold on to those things. As you move forward with the principles of photography, as we move forward with learning new things with your camera and so on, we want you to continue to use the earlier lessons as well. So it's all about progressive learning, building the tool set and growing as you go. It looks like just in terms of where the directions are coming from, looks like you're doing a pretty good job. The lighting is coming from this direction. Lighting is coming from the side. Looks like position 4, you've got the lighting coming from the right space, 5. So you're identifying the direction of the lighting quite well. Again, Excellent use of the entire picture plane. Very good use of focus. This is a really interesting, nice placement of where it is in focus. You're not shying away from the idea that this could be an abstraction. You're more interested here in the use of shape and in highlights and shadows than you are trying to portray that it's a bottle. Excellent. Very good. Very good. Let's move into the intensity. Intensity is about using the two lights. Here you could position that key light anywhere you want. This is really going to be where you're identifying what a key light is, but then supplementing it with the fill. You're always using the key light. The key light is the strongest light in your scene, and that should be the dominant light. Then you're using a fill. You're using whatever other light just as a supplement, and it should always remain a supplement. It shouldn't overpower or interfere with that. This is a very good use of a fill light, because what you're doing is you've got the highlight coming in, but you're then using the fill light to kind of bring yourself into the composition. I do think this would have been improved had we gone ahead and brought this compositionally, if this edge of the bottle was not there, if the composition ended right here where the mouse is, cutting it off, you know, somewhere right around there, as you did in some of the other compositions with your direction. But otherwise, excellent job here. Here with temperature, this is about exploring the various settings with white balance, the various temperatures of the light. One of the advantages to the lighting we have in the studio is you can adjust the lighting. One of the advantages to working with digital photography is you have a variety of white balance settings that you could use. You combine those two controls and suddenly you have a lot of options. So we want you to explore those options, not that you'll always use them, but to know that they're available to you when you might need them, or you might want to push your photography in one direction or another. These images seem to be a lot, you know, pretty consistent with a certain setting toward the war. It would have been interesting to have posted a variety of others. Also, we have two compositions that are very, very close to one another. I would discourage you from doing that. I would say find images that are not identical in terms of compositions. Really explore a variety of compositions. This also tends to start to happen, not just with you, with other students as well. When we start thinking of other things, like in the beginning with the direction, all you had to think about was that one light, and you're moving it around the stage. Your compositions are the other thing you're thinking about, right? So there's only those two things that you have to consider. Once you get into the other parts, particularly in this exercise, when you get into the temperature, you're starting to now work not just with the light where the direction is. Now you're working with the color temperature of the light, and we're introducing something with the camera. So now there's some other components that you're thinking about. What oftentimes happens is suddenly you start to focus on those things and maybe forget about some of the other elements that maybe you were thinking about earlier, i.e. composition. Maybe you start thinking less about composition. As you can see here in some of the temperatures, although your compositions are still, I think, effective, you're still using the entire picture plane, you're not quite as aggressive, you're not quite as, fluid in what you're doing. Some of these compositions up here that you're doing, this is wonderful, fantastic. This is really great composition. What you're doing here with the light, look at this. This is a beautiful composition, Alexis. Wonderful. Now, seeing that you're capable of doing something like that, I want you to maintain that level of composition all the way throughout. Hold that level. Don't let it up. requires a degree of concentration. It requires that you keep that consistency, and that's not easy, but you're capable of it because you're making those images. So I would encourage you to hold that intensity all the way through, and keep your compositions interesting and keep them unique, because that's what's going to separate your photography from everybody else's photography. It's going to be what your voice is all about. Moving into contrast, contrast is about using those reflectors, as you remember, to sort of bring more shades of gray, to kind of add more variety between the shadows and the highlights. And we're getting that to happen pretty well. We're getting some pretty good highlights here. Then we're modifying that over here, where you're moving the reflector a little bit more. The reflector is a wonderful tool, as I had talked about in the demonstration, that it's a simple tool, but it is probably the most powerful tool, the most useful tool that you have. So this is a very good job. Again, we're getting into some very similar compositions here. I would encourage you to really explore a variety of compositions in your postings. So take lots of images, try to mix up your postings, unless it's really otherwise required that it's the same image over and over. Some of the exercise may ask you to post the same composition in a variety of forms. This one didn't, so I would encourage you in the future to do that. We have a lot of mercy on this first project, because you're just getting to know what the expectations are, and I'm just pointing them out here as we move forward. Contrast, that gets into hardness, that really gets into the idea of the shadows, the nature of the shadows. Are they crisp on the edges? Are they soft on the edges? And again, you're doing a pretty good job of identifying that. Here we have shadows that are being identified here. These are sort of in the medium softness area. Some of them are harder, some of them are softer. It's because of which light is hitting them. Is the soft light the light that's creating the shadow, or is it the hard light that's creating the shadow? Remember, you were asked to have a soft light and a hard light sometimes, and have both soft and so on. So that's important. What I am looking for here is evidence that you are exploring the principle. Are you showing that you know what it is you're being asked to do? And I can see that there's evidence there. I would then just, of course, ask again, maintain that excellent composition. Clearly, you know what excellent composition looks like. Push yourself to maintain that. It's evident in that very first series that you did with the direction. If you're able to hold on to that all the way through and continue your interest in that, your photography is just going to be outstanding. So continue that good work, and I think your photography will benefit from that. So let's see here. New share, stop share. So that should be about it. You will, of course, receive a grade. Let's see, let's take this off of share here. You will receive a grade, and it'll be in the form of a card. I'll have a little evaluation for you. It won't be nearly as wordy or comprehensive as what I'm talking about here. And clearly, I will be available to point out things if you do have supplemental questions and stuff like that along the way. Otherwise, we'll see you in the studio, and happy shooting later on. All right. Bye-bye now.